This week on The Travel Show.
50 years since his death, we're in Picasso's birthplace in Spain, as Malaga celebrates the life of its most famous son.
The light for Picasso was really important. It was the first thing he remembered.
We're planning ahead with a guide to the 2024 Paris Olympics.
If I had an advice to give to travelers, it would be to book really early.
And we're in Glasgow, telling the spicy story behind the UK's favourite takeaway meal.
That's got some kick to it.
Southern Spain, and the Costa del Sol in particular, has been a package holiday hotspot since the late 1960s. But more recently, one particular city there, Malaga, has been on a mission to shed the sun, sea and sand image and go for something maybe a bit more upmarket.
Post-pandemic, one of the hot topics in travel is cultural tourism. And what really helps is if you have a famous artist who hails from your area, someone who can be a focal point. And here in Malaga, they've got one, a poster boy, a figurehead, one of the great masters of art history. This guy.
Pablo Picasso was a complicated, colourful and controversial character. But he was also prolific, and today pure box office for the so-called high-value culture vulture market that Malaga is keen to attract. Born here in 1881, Picasso actually only lived in Malaga until he was 10. But 50 years on from his death, the city is making the most of its illustrious local boy. There's postcards, fridge magnets, bags, and even language courses.
Picasso's influence is everywhere.
But the main event is the Museo Picasso Malaga. Founded 20 years ago, it has over 300 works from across his life, housed in what was previously a 15th century palace.
No se puede entender el siglo XX, el arte del siglo XX, sin la figura de Picasso. Es central.
Picasso's works are now some of the most valuable in the world, with paintings like this one sold at Sotheby's in 2018 for around $69 million. Many of the paintings and sculptures in the gallery were donated by his children, at Picasso's request.
Aquí retoma uno de los temas que nunca abandonará en la obra de Picasso, que son las palomas. Hay 3 palomas y que cada una de ellas técnicamente está representada de una manera diferente. Si vemos aquí en esta primera hay una composición mucho más detallada, aunque son unas pinceladas muy sueltas, hasta llegar a aquella última, esta pequeña, que además si nos fijamos está hecha a partir de dejar el lienzo directamente en blanco, no está pintada.
3 different visions of doves, yeah.
Doves were used by Picasso as symbols of peace, and his image of a dove would be adopted as an emblem of world harmony. He lived through some of the most turbulent events in modern history, including the Spanish Civil War and 2 world wars. These would be a profound influence on his work, perhaps most famously illustrated in Guernica, a dramatic painting depicting the horror of the bombing of the Spanish town by fascist forces during the Civil War in the 1930s.
Picasso es un artista inquieto, inquieta a todo aquello que le rodea, al arte, y luego también es un artista sensible, sensible al momento histórico que le tocó vivir, ¿no?
But here in Malaga, they insist his childhood years also had a huge bearing on his lifetime's work. A short walk from the gallery is Picasso's birthplace, which has also become a museum.
Obviously, the most important influence of Picasso in his early years was his own father, because the father was an art teacher.
Ah, and he spotted talent.
Oh yes, he realized very soon that the son had a gift. Picasso's father basically painted doves.
Doves?
And he actually had a dove loft where he was working.
This fascination would transfer from father to son.
From here, he could see the big square of La Merced, full of pigeons and doves. And it's a place where he was playing and where he was growing up.
Doves are a big symbol throughout Picasso's career.
Oh yes, and also the name of his youngest daughter. Paloma means dove in Spanish. The light for Picasso was really important. It was the first thing he remembered from Malaga. And actually Malaga has more than 300 days of sun a year, so it's...
Wow, 300 days. No wonder it's a popular tourist destination as
Oh
well.
yes,
Yeah.
oh yes.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes walk from his birthplace is an arena that arguably influenced Picasso the most. The Malaga Bullring. He would come here with his father every weekend, and it would inspire his first known artwork, aged 8, an oil painting on wood which captures the colour of the bullfight. What the bull represents in Picasso's work is widely debated by critics, some saying it stands for power and masculinity, others cruelty, brutality and suffering.
Bullfighting, very strong part of southern Spain, Spanish culture, yeah?
Yes, very strong.
Today, bullfighting still goes on in Malaga, although it's widely criticised by many people both here and abroad for its cruelty, with increasing calls for it to be banned. But there's no doubt the bull was an enduring legacy of southern Spain throughout Picasso's artistic career, no matter how controversial it's now become. At points while being in Malaga, it feels like the whole city has been an inspiration to Picasso. Even the sunsets. El Pimpi is one of the most famous wine bars in Malaga, and it revels in the great artist's legacy.
This room, it's called the Picasso Room. Did Picasso ever come here? No.
Despite this minor detail, it hasn't stopped the bar from capitalising on Picasso's brand.
Aquí tenemos la firma de Paloma Picasso.
Wow. So in 2003, in April, she came here.
Sí, es una firma real.
And maybe the myths, legends and vague associations are becoming as much part of Picasso's appeal as the real facts.
You can see the influence of the city on his art. It's very diverse and there's a lot going on. There's a lot left up to interpretation. But still, if you look at everything, you can find meaning when you put it all together.
50 years after his death, Picasso's legacy and influence on modern art is still as strong as ever. Despite all of the efforts going on here in Malaga, this part of Spain will long remain heavily reliant on the traditional sun and sea package holiday market. But if you fancy a bit of culture away from the karaoke bars and sun lounges, then you're just the kind of tourist that'll be very welcome right here.
And if you're thinking about visiting southern Spain anytime soon, here are some highlights.
These days, the Caminito del Rey Gorge Walk is a much easier day trip from Malaga than it used to be. A new extension to the C2 train route means it will now take you less than an hour and costs only €7.20 to get there. The 8-kilometre walk through the Haitanes Gorge used to be considered one of the most dangerous in the world, but modern improvements and a refurb have made it much less scary, although probably still not a great idea if you aren't keen on heights. Seville's enormous April Fair takes place every spring, where you can expect flamenco, horse riding and general fun from midday until late into the evening. It's one of the biggest events in the Andalusian calendar. Our tip, try and get into one of the casetas, the striped tents belonging to private families, clubs and societies. That is where some of the real partying happens, and some of the biggest ones allow members of the public in for free. Paella is one of the best known dishes in Spanish cuisine. and it originated in Valencia. It's usually cooked in a large, shallow pan called a paella, which clearly inspired the name of the dish. And there are many varieties of paella, but research carried out in 2022 at the Universidad Católica de Valencia, encouraged by a local chef, says there are only 10 permitted ingredients. And those don't include fish or shellfish, ever. And don't forget, summer in the southern regions of Spain can be extremely hot. However, cooler temperatures in summer can be found in coastal areas or in the Sierra Nevada mountain range, which can be 10 degrees Celsius lower than the closest city of Granada. But still bring your sun cream.
Right, lots more still to come on the show, including
Ideas on where to stay for next year's Paris Olympics. And the spicy takeaway that's blown traditional fish and chips out of the water in the UK.
Glasgow is curry and curry is Glasgow.
So don't go away.
I'm on the cultural tourist trail in Malaga and discovering more about this many-layered ancient city with tour guide Isabel.
What I can see is how rich and diverse the culture is here.
Oh yeah, Malaga is one of the oldest cities of the Western world. A good example here, in 100 meters, we have a Roman theatre of the 1st century,
Right.
Fortress Palace of the 11th century, and the customs that nowadays is an archaeological museum from the 18th century. So here we have the best example.
Just within 100 yards
Yes.
of each other, 50 yards
Yes.
of each other. Yeah. Wow.
Many of these architectural jewels were built over by each successive generation. The cathedral was constructed on the site of a mosque in the 15th century. And a Roman amphitheatre was only fully revealed when they recently knocked down a 1950s building. But the key to Malaga's civilization and wealth is its proximity to the Mediterranean. The city's name is said to come from the Phoenician word malak, which means salt, as Malaga was where fish were preserved.
We exported from here to all over the known world all kind of products. In Muslim times, the ceramic from Malaga was very well known.
They also exported silks, raisins, figs and leather across the Mediterranean, even as far as China.
So all the different civilizations left layers in our personality.
And that, essentially, is Malaga today, shaped by century upon century of diverse influence. Up next, Simon's looking ahead to 2024.
Hello from Paris, capital of the country that attracts more international visitors than any other, and host city for the 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Sales for tickets for the events are already underway, and those lucky spectators now face the prospect of booking travel at a busy and expensive time. We're here to help. First though, in Florida, the rail line linking Miami, Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach is due to be extended to Orlando International Airport later this year.
The company responsible, Brightline, is testing trains running at 110 miles an hour and claims it'll be a cleaner way to travel, using a mix of greener fuel, solar power and an offsetting scheme in an effort to be carbon neutral.
Normally, in July and August, Paris empties, with the citizens escaping to the beaches, the countryside and the mountains. In summer 2024, though, Paris will come alive as host city for the 33rd Olympic Games.
From previous experience, I know that hotel rates will soar ahead of the expected large number of visitors. Could one option be staying outside the city and travelling in each day using the excellent rail network? Claire Rodinot is travel editor for Le Figaro, based here in Paris.
What will the city be like? Will it be very expensive? Will it be very crowded?
Yeah, I guess both of that. So if I had an advice to give to travelers, it would be to book really early from now on if they can, because some people bought their tickets this week, so they can already rent their flats on Airbnb or on other French platforms. And if they can book today, let's do it.
I've been doing my own research to find the perfect place outside Paris to stay based on transport times, availability of accommodation and how much there is to do there. And I've come up with 4 ideal locations: Compiègne, Fontainebleau, Chartres and Vernon, which is very close to Monet's garden at Giverny.
What do you think of those?
These are good options. For example, in Chartres you have the cathedral, in Compiègne there is the memorial of the First World War. But to my mind, if you want to be at the center of the action, you should stay closer to Paris. For example, there is Chantilly, which is only 25 minutes by train from Paris and which also has a castle, a park where you can learn to cook the famous crème chantilly, and it's closer than Compiègne, for example.
Following our feature on European rail travel last month, it's clear that many of you are organising your own adventures by train. Mike and Kate got in touch to say, we're planning a 3-week Interrail trip in September. What itinerary do you recommend? Well, I'm also planning a trip using the unlimited travel pass, and let me begin by saying where I won't be going.
France, Spain and Italy are off my list for making the most of Interrail. All 3 have fabulous trains, but for expresses you need to pay a supplement and book ahead. In my opinion, that defeats the purpose. Which neatly leaves Austria, Germany and in particular Switzerland, where tickets are positively alpine in their prices and the rail journeys are spectacular, especially the Glacier Express across the mountains.
That's all for now from here in Paris, but do get in touch. Send us your travel problems and I'll do my best to find a solution. Goodbye.
Now, finally this week, we're off to the kitchens of Scotland. Now, back in the day, UK cuisine had a pretty iffy reputation around the world. Many visitors still stare into their soggy and beige fish and chips dinners with disappointment. But did you know that fish and chips isn't even the UK's national dish? Because back in the 1970s, a newcomer arrived with zingier flavours and wilder colours. We sent William Lee Adams on a culinary quest to Glasgow.
I'm a Vietnamese American from Georgia in America's deep south. So I grew up eating spicy noodle dishes, fried chicken swimming in Tabasco sauce, and chili with plenty of chilies. But since moving to the UK, I've always found British food a little bland. So I've traveled to Scotland's biggest city where I've heard the food has a bit more kick.
Glasgow is often voted the world's friendliest city, and locals pride themselves on their good cheer, good humor, and chattiness. It's one reason that generations of immigrants from all over the world have decided to call Glasgow home.
And it's here where Britain's most popular dish was born, and it is not fish and chips.
This is chicken tikka masala. It's boneless chunks of chicken marinated in a sauce of tomato and cream, and it has this fantastic orange color because of the spice mix.
You can get the dish all over the city, but according to local legend, the original chicken tikka masala was created here at the Sheesh Mahal restaurant in the 1970s. Every day, the chef marinates 30 kilograms of chicken and roasts up to 400 skewers in his tandoor.
This is our secret sauce. You can taste it.
All right, here we go. That's got some kick to it. Have you ever told anyone outside of the restaurant what's inside?
No.
Well, he's staying tight-lipped, so I head over to the dining room to meet with Ali Asif.
This is my dad.
Asif's father sadly passed away in December, but his legacy lives on through the family restaurant, where in the early 1970s, he's reputed to have created the world's first tikka masala. It all started when a grumpy bus driver complained that his chicken was too dry. Asif's dad needed a quick fix, so he grabbed a can of tomato soup that he'd already opened.
Dad put the tomato soup into the curry, heated it up and served it, and the customer loved it. And the customer asked, what is this called? Tikka Masala, because it's the most generic name you could find.
So these days you can get tikka masala as a pizza topping, frozen at the grocery store as a takeaway. What do you make of everyone copying your dad's recipe?
He said people enjoying food is more important than where it came from or who invented it. He used to say he was born in Pakistan, but he was made in Glasgow.
Like any legendary dish, the origins of the chicken tikka masala are disputed, but Asif's dad remains a local hero anyway. He was part of a wave of people from Pakistan, India, and current-day Bangladesh who came to Scotland in the 1950s when the UK faced a labor shortage. But rather than returning to their home country after 5 years, as was so often the plan, many families decided to stay. And today, more than 60,000 people of South Asian descent live here and in the surrounding area. We're off to meet the comedian Sanjeev Kohli at one of his favorite spots in the city.
Sanjeev, I hope you don't mind. I took the liberty of getting a little snack, the paper dosa. Oh, okay, not so little. I feel like I should wear this. It looks like a flotation device.
You could probably get into that. Scotland in the winter, it's a bit like Finland. You need your comfort food. It's freezing. It's been dark for 7 hours. Sushi ain't gonna cut it. It's gotta be comfort food. And the thing about Indian food, it's comforting, like a big fluffy naan bread, like a pillow. You know what I mean? Or a pakora. It's just all there. All the salt, all the fat, all the stuff. Indian food is the most popular food in Scotland. Anywhere you see fish and chips, you can see curry. That's how integrated certainly the cuisine is. And I've always thought that the cuisine, the story of the cuisine reflects the story of the people, if you know what I mean. Glasgow is curry and curry is Glasgow.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for on this week's programme, but join us next week when...
We're looking back at some of the favourite stories so far this year on the show. From swimming with friendly jellyfish in the Philippines,
that way I think,
to trying to navigate the world's biggest Medina in Morocco without getting lost.
I think that is actually a blind alley. I'm not going to do that. Until then, you can find us on the BBC iPlayer and on social media too. We're in all the usual places, along with other great travel content from around the BBC. Right, I'm now off to calm those hunger pangs and maybe get some tapas. But until next time, from me, Rajan Datar, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in Malaga, thanks for watching and goodbye.